All right, guys, today we're going to be reviewing all of our statistical calculations that we've worked up to this point. Okay, we're going to be reviewing how to calculate the mean, how to calculate the median, the mode, the range, and outliers. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is the mean. And the mean is the average of a data set. So when we're talking about mean, we're talking about that central number that represents the entire data set. Okay. So what we're going to do to find our mean is we're going to add them all up and we're going to divide by how many there are. So let's take a look at our number one right here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add them all up. So you can use your calculator for this. It's just that Desmo scientific calculator that I linked on the quick links on Google Classroom. We're going to add them up. So we'll take 33 plus 45 plus 28 plus 51 plus 38. So the first thing we do is we find the sum, which is 195. So on my work, I'm going to show that I added it up and I got 195. Then we're going to divide by how many there are. So when we count, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of data. Okay, so in my calculator, I'm going to take my sum, which was 195, and divide it by 5 pieces of data. And we get that the average is 39. So we divide that by 5, and we get that our average, or our central number that represents the data set, is a 39. Okay, let's try it again. Find the mean. Again, when we're finding the mean, the first thing that we do is we add them all up. Then we divide by how many there are. So pull out my calculator here. And we have 10 plus 12 plus 14 plus 15 plus 18. I'm sorry, it was just an 8. Plus 19, and we get 78. So on my work paper, I'm going to show that when I added them up, I got a 78. And we're going to divide by how many pieces of data we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to divide that by 6. Just put that in my calculator. 78 divided by 6, and I get 13. So my average, or my central number that represents the entire data set, is a 13. Okay, so for mean, all you have to do, add them all up and divide by how many there are. Okay, so let's talk about median. Okay, median is the middle number in an ordered data set from least to greatest. So if we're looking for the middle number in a data set that's ordered from least to greatest, the first thing that we have to do is to order that data set from least to greatest. So let's work on this problem right here. First off, anytime we want the median, we're going to order them up. Okay, so I have 1, and I always like to mark them off as I go so I know I got them all. 4, 5, and another 5. We have a 7, a 10, and a 14. Okay, so again, got to make sure I've got all my numbers in the data set. After we order them from least to greatest, then we're just going to cross off the ends until we have one number left in the middle. So we're going to cross off 1 and 14, 4 and 10, 5 and 7. And so my median is the one number that's left in the middle. And so our median is a 5. Okay, let's try it again. Let's do another one. Example number 2. Find the median. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to order them from least to greatest. So again, I just mark mine off as I go so I know I got them all. So I have a 20. I have a 22. We have a 26. We have a 31. We have a 33. And we have a 35. Okay, so now we're going to mark them off till we get to one number left in the middle. So we cross off our 20 and our 35, our 22 and our 33. But you'll notice we don't have one number left in the middle, we have 2. So anytime that you're finding the median and you have 2 numbers left in the middle, all you have to do is add them together and divide by 2. So I'm going to take my 26 and my 31, and again, we can use our calculator for this. 26 plus my 31, and I get 57. We take my 57, I'm going to divide it by 2, and we get a 28.5. So our median, the middle number in the middle of our data set, would be a 28.5. And I just insert that into our data set because it's not one of our actual data numbers, but it does fall in the middle of 26 and 31. So I just draw that arrow and insert it in the middle. Okay. All right. So we've done mean, median. Now let's talk about mode. Mode is the one that occurs the most. It's the one that we see the most. The one that is the most frequent in our data set. So let's look at a numerical data set. Looks like just numbers. If you look, we see 22, 22, 22. It occurs more than anything else, so it is the mode. Okay. Now, some data sets don't have a mode because all the numbers occur the same amount of times, and that's okay. So if that happens, you would just write no mode. Let's look at a graph. Okay. On our graph here, I like looking at graphs for the mode the best because they're the easiest. We're just looking for the dot that has the, or sorry, we're looking for the number that has the most dots because that is the one that occurs the most amount of times. So if we're looking, the one that has the most dots is the 3, okay? It occurs the most, so 3 is our mode. Okay? Let's talk about range. Our range is the maximum minus the minimum, okay? Maximum is the highest number in a data set, and the minimum is the lowest number in the data set. So, for example, let's take a look at our numerical data set here. I'm trying to find the maximum, and I'm going to subtract the minimum for the range. So our maximum is an 80 minus our minimum, which is 24. And again, we can use our calculator for that subtraction problem. So I'm just going to take my 80 minus 24, and we get that our range is 56. So our range is 56. Okay. All right. So if we're looking at a dot plot, we're looking for, we're still trying to figure out the maximum minus the minimum. Okay. Our maximum number of magazines sold, the most magazines that anybody sold was a 25. And the minimum amount of magazines that anybody sold was 17. Okay. To find the range, all we have to do is subtract those. And again, we can use that calculator. We have our 25 minus our 17, and so we get the range is 8. Okay, and this is the type of work we would want to see on your all's paper as you're doing these types of questions, just that subtraction problem, maximum minus minimum. Okay, and the last one we're going to talk about is outliers. An outlier is just a number that is far away from all of the rest of the data. Okay, it can be way bigger, it can be way smaller, or there can be no outlier at all if all of the data kind of falls in, is close together. Okay, so let's take a look at this one right here. We have 2, 4, 5, 2, 6, 4, 7, 18, 2, and 4. So if you look at our data set, there is one number that sticks out that doesn't really fit with the rest, and that number is 18. It is way bigger than the rest of our data set, so 18 is our outlier. Okay, anytime we're looking at a graph, outliers, what you're going to see like a cluster of data, which we have right here. Okay, you're going to see a big gap, and then you're going to see one little guy out here by himself. This little guy out here by himself is the outlier, so in this case, the outlier would be 10. Okay, and our last one here, let's look at our data set. We have 18, 19, 17, 21, 22, 16, and 24. Looking at that data set, all of our data is pretty close together. There's not any number that's either way bigger. There's not a number that's way smaller. So there's really no outlier on this data set because they're all close together. There's not one that really stands out. Okay, so those are our statistical calculations that we're reviewing today. Mean is the average. That's where you add them all up and then divide by how many there are. Median is the middle number in an ordered data set from least to greatest. Mode is the one that appears the most. Range is the maximum minus the minimum. And an outlier is any data point that is far away from anything else.